Welcome to the Wine Zone. Today I've got with me Jonas Newman, winemaker, bottle washer, chief salesman, everything for Hinterland Winery. And I have a couple of questions I want to ask. Jonas, tell me first of all, what possessed you to try to make wine?
It's a long story.
Make it short.
I'll try to make it as short as I can. I had the good fortune of working in a very excellent restaurant called Scaramouche, and I also had the good fortune of having two very good mentors there who taught me a lot about wine. So I basically started tasting a significant amount of wine when I was 18, and they had a brilliant list there, and we got to taste through everything. And once I started showing interest, they started bringing me over to the buying sessions, and the agents started to get to know me. I got to get to know them as well. And I 27 years old, I sort of peaked at what I thought I was capable of doing in restaurants. And
was there a Eureka wine at that point?
I had a number of Eureka wines, namely a 90 Echezot was one of them, and a 53 Lafite.
Okay.
We also had guests that would bring in wines from their private cellars, and if you happened to be serving them, there was sort of an etiquette where they would have to share it with you. So I've had a couple of those wines, and just being around, that culture for a while, really got me into the whole idea.
There's a big jump between working around wine and putting all of your life savings, all of your life into making it and hoping that somebody buys it.
Right. Well, I was 27, and I had sort of peaked. I was the maitre d' at one of the finest dining rooms in the country. I had no urge at all to open a restaurant, and I met Vicky, my wife, around the same time. And this was around the same time that Prince Edward County was emerging. Some significant plantings were going in, and we went down and had a look. And part of me, I like being outside. I like fishing. I like hunting. I like that sort of that outdoor lifestyle. And I thought, I like wine. What's the ultimate? Let's try and make some. So we figured we were young enough to take the risk and put everything into it, and so we did. And we bought a property, and we put in 7 acres and adapted, basically learned how to farm.
No, I don't see it on this one, but on your initial label, I recall seeing a stag.
Yeah, it's on the back. It's on the back. Yeah,
okay.
It's on the back.
And I guess that relates to your hunting, or does that relate to the fact that the wines go so well with game?
Some of them do. Some of them do. We have deer on the property, and we've the first deer that I ever shot on the property was a 7-point, and it's represented in the label.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So,
7-point.
A 7-point, which is not a huge deer, but I was proud of it nevertheless.
Sure. And how large is the property?
We have 2 farms. One's a field. I always call it a farm, but one's a 100-acre field. And about 40 acres of it's bush, and I'd say maybe 40 acres is plantable, and the rest is kind of swampy. And the other farm with the winery on it is 72 acres.
72 acres.
5 acres of vines.
How far apart are they?
About half a kilometer.
Half a kilometer.
Yeah,
is the soil virtually identical? Are there nuances, or are they widely different?
No, they're not widely different. It's all hilly or clay loam. I'd say the main difference between the 2 farms is one has a southeast slope, and the other slope's northwest. Okay. So on the northwest farm, we have Riesling and Pinot Gris. We have our Alsatian varietals. And then on the south-facing slopes, we have Pinot and Chard, our Burgundy varietals.
Excellent,
yeah,
excellent. Yeah. And you basically, in case folks don't know, you've decided that you're making sparkling wine. Even though you're growing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, you're really not making still wines, you're making sparkling wines.
We make
Talk a little bit about that and what your philosophy is.
We make no still wines commercially. We make some for kicks every year. But basically, we're only making sparkling wine. There's something about the climate there. There's something about the soils. It's a short, tight, intense growing season. For people who may or may not know about the fact that we have to hill up.
You have to hill up. You have to cover you have to cut back your vines, lay them down, and cover them.
We bury everything that we want to use for the following season, essentially. And this, of course, takes time. It's an immense amount of hand labor.
No, obviously, it's not men with shovels.
No, we do it
machine,
mechanically, of course. But then the canes themselves, we have to select the parts of the plant that we're going to be using for the following year and tie them to a wire, essentially a few inches off the ground, and then we go through mechanically. So, I'm not a huge vineyard by any stretch, but I have about 18,000 vines. So you have to imagine that that's going to take some time.
Now, it will take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that you're doing sparkling wine, does that give you an advantage over those who are, I hesitate to think about after ice wine.
Well, we can't, but we get to pick a couple weeks earlier. I mean, the grapes are perfectly right for sparkling. I mean, if you're a winemaker kind of person, the numbers are really good. The bricks, the pH, and the acidity are in some sort of balance for some sort of sparkling wine every year. So we rarely, never, in fact, have ever had to adjust our juice in any of those ways.
Right.
There's been, in 2008, we had to pick a little differently. We picked a little bit early and a little bit later, and then we ended up blending those two together. But we've never had a batch of juice where like, this doesn't have enough sugar, or this acidity is too high, or this pH is out of whack. So there's, year over year it's been that way, and I think that if you ask the other guys who are making sparkling wine in the county, they'll tell you the same thing. The grapes are just absolutely beautiful. The fruit comes in clean. It's nice to be picking in the sun.
Does that mean that I should conclude, and anybody else who's thinking about growing grapes in Prince Edward County should think about it as a sparkling wine region as opposed to a still wine region?
I've tasted some absolutely, in the brilliant Chardonnays, I've tasted some very good Pinots, but the best wines I've tasted have been sparkling wines, my wine's notwithstanding.
Okay, okay. Now, you're not using just Prince Edward County fruit, I understand. You've got some Gamay sparkling
that you
made this year?
That's Prince Edward County fruit, not from our vineyard.
I see, okay.
We bought that fruit. That was a Prince Edward County vineyard. It's called Coal Creek Vineyard. It's one of Casadilla's 2 vineyards.
Right.
And there's a grower there. His name's Lou. And he's an amazing grower. He's one of the pioneers. He's been there since the very beginning. He's hung in there and managed to make it through all the hardship and hard times and learning curves and all that. And he has some of the nicest fruit in the county, and we were lucky to pick up 6 tons from him this year.
Okay, and it's not the same Cold Creek that you see on Rose Hall.
Yes, same vineyard.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought that was a brand name, Cold Creek.
No, Cold Creek
Cabernet Franc. He has Cold Creek Cabernet Franc.
That refers to the vineyard where the Cab Franc came from.
Okay.
So it's a 65-acre vineyard. No, sorry, 35. Casadilla has 65 acres total. It's a 35-acre vineyard on Cold Creek Road.
Okay, enough about them. Let's talk about you. So
it's good fruit. It's beautiful fruit. It's great site.
But so you're telling me you're not buying fruit from anyone. It's all Prince Edward County fruit.
We buy some Vidal from Niagara.
Right.
And we make as a sort of our cheap and cheerful entry level. We buy it from a grower named Theo Procession.
Okay.
He's a 35-year-old Vidal vineyard on the upper bench, and I really like his site. And he's a great grower too.
And who do you get the Riesling from?
Riesling comes from our own farm.
Riesling from your own, Chardonnays from your own, Pinot Noirs from your own, and Gamays from
Greens
Cold
from our
Creek.
own, and then Gamay comes from Cold Creek. Yeah.
Fantastic.
We're putting Gamay in. We wanted to put it in this season coming, but we couldn't get the right clone, so we're gonna have to wait 1 more year.
Okay. Now, as a sparkling winemaker, I think most people are familiar with the process of traditional sparkling wine, where you have a fermentation followed by a secondary fermentation.
Yeah.
Talk briefly about Ancestral.
Ancestral, it's an adaptation of the oldest way that they would make sparkling wine.
How does it differ from the regular sparkling
process? It's a single fermentation. So no matter when you do a fermentation, the equation is yeast eats sugar, makes alcohol, plus and a byproduct is CO2.
Causes gas.
CO2. So what happens for a traditional method is we do another fermentation in a closed environment, so no CO2 escapes. In the Ancestral, we're looking for a light, gentle bubble.
Yep.
And so we clean up the juice the same way you would any other, and we put it in a fermentation in a tank that we're able to close off and make completely isobaric, completely pressurized.
Okay.
And so we allow it to ferment along, and once we start hitting a place where we think that we're going to like the balance, we close off the tank. And so it just ferments for a couple more days after that, and then the pressure rises in the tank and the bubbles exist. And then when we like everything about it, the balance, the bubble, the sweetness, everything, we chill it down as quickly as we can.
To stop the fermentation?
To stop the fermentation. So
and bottle immediately?
It goes at 0 degrees, and we go through 1 filtration under pressure, isobaric filtration. So we go from 1 pressurized tank to another, and everything is equal pressure. And then we bottle under pressure as well. Okay.
So the key difference is that most sparkling wines are 2-3 years old. Right. Because they've had a long time in the cellar, secondary fermentation.
Right.
And this is always immediately following the vintage.
This year we harvested October 17th, and we harvested October 13th and bottled November 15th, 16th, 17th, those 3 days.
And released on?
December 1.
And sold out on?
Not yet, but probably by Valentine's Day.
By Valentine's Day,
Probably by Valentine's Day. We're about halfway there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we shut down here,
Yeah.
what else do you have to sell right now?
At the moment, we're working through the last little bits of our Les Etoiles from 2008. It's tasting very good. We've just disgorged another 1,000 bottles last week. We have a little bit of Charmat Riesling left as well, 220 cases or so. And then we'll be releasing the 08 version of the Rosé. We're aiming for Feb 1. We're aiming for Feb 1.
Okay.
If everything goes smoothly, February 1 we'll have the new Rosé.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And finally?
Oh, sorry, the 2009. We're off camera.
Okay.
Vicky is saying the 2009 Rosé.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Traditional method, Pinot.
Hinterlandwine.com?
www.hinterlandwine.com.
www.hinterlandwine.com.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, all right.
See you again.
Okay.